Hello and welcome to Growing Through Connection, a podcast that explores the life-changing impact of emotionally focused therapy. Join us as we discover how EFT helps create and secure lasting connections, leading to more fulfilling lives. In this special first season, we offer a series of short conversations with the late Dr. Sue Johnson, the pioneering visionary behind EFT. Sue shares her personal journey, reflects on the evolution of her work, and offers powerful insights into the science of emotional connection. So settle in and enjoy this unique opportunity to get to know Sue while discovering how EFT can deepen your relationships and enrich your life in ways you'd never imagined.
So anyone that's met you will see how passionate you are. You put so much into your work, into your life. You've been described as a pioneer. I've heard someone refer to you as a rock star. What still gets you excited?
Oh, well, I love teaching. I love sharing my ideas with an audience and watching people respond. I love Q&As because people get to challenge me and ask interesting questions. And so I love teaching, but these days I'm just obsessed with EFIT, emotionally focused individual therapy. I mean, me and everyone else I know who worked with couples did it for years, but it's only in the last few years that we've said, okay, wait a minute, let's do what we've done with couples. Let's look at what we do. Let's look at tapes. Let's systematically talk about it. Let's, examine it, refine it. And we've done that. And I just love doing it. I don't see that many clients anymore, not at the moment, but I love working with clients. I learn from every client. I love doing EFIT. I love working with my wonderful colleague, Leanne Campbell. We have fun, we play, so I'm turned on by that. The primer we wrote that came out, was it last year or the year before now? I'm proud of that. So EFIT turns me on and working with clients turns me on. And in my life outside therapy, I'm a crazy, dedicated gardener. I have a huge garden here in Victoria that when I got here was all stones and rocks and dry earth and deer eating everything. So I remember being enraged at my husband and saying, "You've brought me here to this place. I'm a gardener. Look at this lot." If you saw it now, you wouldn't believe. Because bless his heart, he built all kinds of terraces and now the neighbors come by and say, "Can I just walk in your garden?" I say, "Of course, have a cup of tea." So I'm a gardener and I know now what deer eat and what they don't. Occasionally a deer and I have a little argument about that, actually, where I dash out with a spade and say, "You don't eat that." The deer says, "Yes, I do." I say, "No, you don't, because I'm going to run towards you with a spade." Anyway, so I'm a gardener. I'm a bird watcher. I love birds. I could have quite happily studied birds my whole life. When I was a little girl, I had a budgie called George, who would, when I didn't pay attention to him, he would get into the toffee tin. Every household in those days in England had a toffee tin. Okay?
Right. Yeah.
He'd get into the toffee tin, and if I didn't pay attention to him, I'd suddenly be hit in the head by a toffee, right? So he'd hurl it across the room. I go, "Oh!" I said, "George?" And he'd jumping up and down in the toffee tin like, what? So, and then he'd come on my head and walk down my nose and talk to me in one eye. I loved George. George and I got along really well. I used to sick him on my mother's white poodle. I used to point to her and he'd scream his head off and dive bomb her. So I always had this sort of relationship with this bird. And as I grew up all over England, it's full of birds. And I just became more and more intoxicated with birds. Now I go out on the islands around Victoria and, with my binocs, and I'm fascinated by all the amazing, beautiful birds. So I'm very caught up in us saving birds, taking care of birds, valuing birds. So I bird watch, I garden, and I walk around in beautiful nature with my husband and my 2 lovely dogs. And sometimes all my children come as well, sometimes not, But yeah, that's kind of what I do to wind down, if I wind down. I'm trying to get better at it. But I must say it's still a challenge for me. I don't really wind down, if you know what I mean. I still go until I hit the wall and then sort of... sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and go over a conversation or a point or something that happened in a talk, and my mind will just go around it. And what I find is if I manage to go to sleep again, I wake up in the morning and there's a voice in my head that says, well, this is, the answer to this. This is, and I go, oh, jolly good. Whoever that is in my head, thank you very much. Like my wonderful, wonderful Christian friend says, that's the Spirit talking to you. I say, okay, whoever it is, if it's a bit of me or whoever, I'm very grateful, right? But I don't really, my husband always says, you don't know how to rest. I'm trying, because as you get older, you really do need to know how to rest, I go on my exercise bike and sing 70s songs.
Which ones?
Oh, well, I like Billy Joel, and I like James Taylor, and I like Steely Dan, and I like Anne Lennox.
Oh, yeah.
Would I lie to you? Would I tell you something that isn't true? I just love her. I'm just doing the bike, And then John comes in and says, and after this, you're going to lie down on the floor and stretch and meditate, right? And I say, yeah. As I get up and I do 2 stretches and I go to my email. Yeah, I'm not real good at rest. In an English working class family when I grew up, you didn't rest. Nobody took time out. You got up in the morning, made the coal fire, put the kettle on, started the chores, and then at 11 at night you went to bed. And if I used to sit and read as a child, my mother would walk in and say, what are you doing? And I'd say, well, I'm reading this book. She'd say, that's a stupid waste of time. Get up and help your granny. Do the washing. So it wasn't part of our culture really to rest. My children talk to me about life balance. And I say, yes, that would be a really good idea. So I actually try to do things now like I say, don't go to the next task. Take the dogs and go for a walk. Why don't you do that? There's still some part of my brain that says, think of all the things you could do when you're walking on the beach. You could do this, you could do that, you could answer that email, you could... Stop. I'm going to walk on the beach. It's a certain kind of mindset. I think in English working class families, life was hard when I was born, and life was a struggle. And you all struggled together, and you struggled the whole time. Well, actually, in English working class life, when you did take a break, you usually drunk. So, you had a few...
Pass out.
Yeah, you had a few scotches, and then you took a break because you were, done.
Thank you for joining us on Growing Through Connection. As we conclude, remember that connection is at the heart of human experience. Keep exploring, keep connecting, and we'll see you next time on Growing Through Connection. This podcast is a production of Sue Johnson. Learn more about EFT at drsuejohnson.com and at the International Center for Excellence in Emotionally Focused Therapy site at iceft.com. To find a qualified emotionally focused therapist in your area, visit iceft.com and click on our Find an EFT Therapist directory. If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a 5-star rating and be sure to tell your friends. Until next time, stay connected.